Welcome back again to our program, Studio Galaxy. This is the second part of our program today, Saturday. And the topic today is, why did the NDC government open the door to corruption? Why? The number to call is 536-2558. And as usual, we encourage dialogue. Now, in small countries like ours, particularly when you're dealing with big imperial powers, you could end up a pawn in the game. Europe and the United States of America on one block, and China and Russia and others on the other side. When the big multinational corporations and the imperial power fed up with you or they disagree with you, sometimes they have enough empirical evidence to accuse you for corruption. And that is a big one. And small countries could suffer immensely, both in fact, in practicality, and in image, if you have branded as a corrupt country. I think at one time there is a banana republic. So governments over the years have tried to close the door to corruption. Man is corrupt. Man is weak. An old man told me once when I was very young, if you want to really know a man, you must have free food, free drink, and some young, beautiful women. See, that is a test to know men of good character. In 1973, the government of the day was under immense pressure. Eric, Matthew, Gary, government. They accused them for police brutality. They accused them for UFO. They accused them for corruption. At one time, Gary said in a meeting, if a dog pee on Market Hill, they blaming him. The government introduced regulation, laws for the Grenada Development Bank that no minister, no director, and the immediate families must not benefit from the GDP bank. It's not that they would not have qualified. Most of the ministers were farmers and they were poor, so they would have readily qualified for loan. The directors too, they would have qualified. But that was a means of preventing the ministers, the directors, and their close family from being accused of corruption. The revolution came, they overthrew Gary, they never touched it. Succeeding government come about, and they did not interfere with the regulation. They thought it was good. They understood, yes, the politicians may need money. Go and get it somewhere else. Or stay out of politics if you know you want to benefit. They say you can't eat your cake and have it. This government under Dick Mitchell flaunt the laws of the bank with impunity and raid the bank. What they did is tantamount to raid. And what is worse, you have a number of people within the ranks of the top ranks of the NDC that used to be making mountain out of molehills about corruption. That is one of the things they did that opened the door to corruption. We have with us today Mastercard. And we're going to go through and point out a number of areas where we believe the government took deliberate action to assess so they could act like parasites on the coffers of this country. And that is why we say they open the door to corruption. You know, you have a saying, if the priest could play, who is me? When the government do that with the GDB Bank, it had a rippling effect to other statutory bodies. And then we start to hear stories about national lottery. Over the years, we have not heard about any significant corrupt acts in national lottery. National lottery took people to court and win. People take national lottery to court and lose. Oh, we have heard about sexual crimes. But once you put man and woman in the same room, there is a possibility that the man will fail. And you might have sexual crime. There is a possibility that the man will fail. Because even the woman flaunt, the man must not fail. But I tell you already about my partner. He opened his eyes and prayed. You know. When the woman entered the office, he said, Lord have mercy, I don't want to be tempted. So remember to pray. But he leave his eyes open. So he said, lead me into temptation and help me to fail. I went and see him in prison. So the government deliberately, tawat, amen, are just basically front laws for malicious, corrupt practices. Master Carl.
Thanks for having me, Senior.
Always glad to have you.
And
when I don't have you, I miss you.
It's a very topical discussion this morning as to the government opening the floodgates to corruption. And just to backtrack a bit, that was one of the issues myself and you was concerned about since this young group of people was voted into office. But we always like to support whatever statements we make. And we dare persons of different views to call or to engage us so we could have a discussion, a political discussion. The first act of corruption is the 2025 budget.
First or the last?
Well, the latest one.
The latest. What's in place?
In a long line of corrupt enablement. This NDC government is enabling corruption. Let's just backtrack a bit. If we understand and you mention the National Lottery Authority, if you understand the reason why Mr. Lacrette was booted out of the government, simply because he said this thing too corrupt and we have to fix it. And it is alleged that the Prime Minister would have said he and the Attorney General go deal with it. And further allegations was made that you have to be careful how you're dealing with one of us, the chairman of the board in National Lottery. So when we say corruption is being amplified, enabled, and in today's words or discussion come corruption 2.0, not so Gates? How do you say it? When you amplify 2.0, it might be 3.0 just now, the budget is 3.0. So this government is in power, almost 3 years senior, and nothing has been done as it relates to capital projects. Yet still, the 2025 budget read in March, which leaves this government 9 months, because only 9 months remain, and the budget don't even go by the GG yet to get the legal teeth. So they have a little under 3 months. But they don't achieve nothing in 3 years. What make the people believe anything will be achieved in the next 9 months? And that is corruption. Now, we always ask when the budget will be presented. And they say, well, we have legally up until March of the next year. That might be legal. However, the implications of the budget. And when you listen the discussions as it relates to the budget, senior, you have to ask yourself if everybody on the government side had the same information or were they on the same page. But before I forget, senior, through you, I want you to ask Delma Thomas, Miss Delma Thomas, Miss Gloria Thomas, Miss Tessa, what is Tessa?
St. Louis or something?
Tessa.
Tessa is good.
David
Andrew.
And Lennox
Lennox
Andrew.
Andrew.
Ask them for me when last they passed in Grenville. Because if they pass in Grenville recently, I want them to ask the Prime Minister when will the nets for the CMOS be here? Because they have this thing boasting about the seaweed. They have this thing boasting about the delivering. But the seaweed has become a health hazard for the people on the eastern corridor. And nobody saying nothing about it. Like it is okay, but they boasting about delivering. Now we keep asking, how will the budget be financed? And then we hear 834 million will be borrowed. But yet still, on the presentation of the budget, and my representative Dennis Cornwall, he didn't do justice in presenting the budget. He was lackluster at best. It was difficult on the air, senior, to listen him. So even if he had goodies or good points in the budget, which is an election budget, we have to ask what is really happening. Because he said there's a deficit of $337 million. But yet still, Lennox Andrew say the budget is a surplus budget. So either Lennox and Dennis, and that the two persons, senior, if you recall, we always believe should be the most sane among the group, based on their experience in the public service, based on their experience in the Ministry of Finance, but they are at loggerheads as to the true reflection of the budget. One saying it's not a deficit, one saying it is a deficit. Now, all the savings they speak to only accounts for the recurrent side of the budget. When we say the recurrent side of the budget, we mean salaries and so on. And right now, they don't pay in loan. So, what drives the economy is the capital side of the budget, senior. And for the last 3 years, no new project, and I'll go through a litany of projects here, because when we come, we just come serious. So what savings they mention is only to enable them to pay the friends. Corruption again, eh? And whilst we are on that, we must speak to procurement. Because the ordinary Grenadian, the patriots of Grenada, keep saying things hard. And I was walking through Grenville yesterday, and I have a great love and affinity for popcorn, senior. And I went by this lady and I purchased a popcorn, and she said, Mister, everything slow in Grenville, nothing no selling. That is the reality on the ground. But the Minister of Finance saying everything hunky-dory, everything nice. But procurement. So the ordinary Grenadian, because we're speaking on corruption and enabling corruption and corrupt practices, that is what we deal with today. The ordinary Grenadian is telling you things hard, things difficult. Village shop closing down because they don't have the disposable income created by infrastructure and capital projects to enable them to thrive. So they say things difficult, but the government saying that is not true. But listen the rationale for increasing the procurement, everything go up. Die corruption, you see. Even the Attorney General, the advisor, the legal advisor to the government of Grenada and the people of Grenada, saying it is necessary to increase the procurement. And the thing about it is, senior, although things get bad and things go up, but we cannot say that things go up by 600%. But the procurement has been increased by 600 plus %. Where the friends, Gates look for the meaning of corruption there for me. Where the friends are the recipients of this $100,000 contracts in here. If that is not corruption, well, we need to be re-educated as to corruption. So the government is running on the coattail of the last administration of what the last administration has put in place. So they're only making enough to take. Remember I give you the story when we were young and we go in certain places, according to who pick up coconut, the thief, and according to who pick up coconut, they say they take. So because they're in power, they don't call it thief, they call it take. And you're listening the MIT resume and all the would-be corruption that is going on. Who collecting check and go and change it and have to give somebody and get a little something out of it and all utter nonsense. How could we trust some people like that, senior? They met a lot of money in the treasury. The treasury was pregnant. And now they have to do all this level of borrowing, claiming that they're doing it for capital projects. But what is interesting to know and the point to note, senior, we have to approach this government and the level of corruption face on. Because you cannot nicety and people saying give them a chance. 100 days pass already. It is a normal practice when a new government come into office. People tend to say give them 100 days. That pass, maybe over 900 days have since passed. And all the projects they keep saying, they come back with the hospital again. Well, if you don't do the hospital in the past 3 years, what confidence you giving the people that you could do it in 9 months? This thing is an intention to confuse. And I say they just do people again, trick people. You see here?
They deceive, there's a whole...
They still come back talking about health facilities. You don't do it in 3 years. What make you go do it in 9 months? Carlton House. Well, they talk about education. And before I forget, the I-man is senior. Based on budgetary allocations, senior, 8 million has been cut from the Imani budget. What say you in him? Because I know you have passion about the Imani, senior.
You see, that is why I believe it is necessary to speak. And when you speak, don't only make statement, bring justification, reasons. why you're saying that the government opens the door to corruption. When the government gives the impression, prior to the election, they made statements. After the election, they made statements. But as you said, Imani, and you cut the program by $8 million, and you introduce another program and put $3 million in it. This is you deceiving people. I always tell people, don't joke around with the poor of the poor. When somebody have a job, and you, because of the policies you have, because of the policies you have, you push these people in a corner. You lie. You already lied to them. You deceive them, and now you're creating the environment for them to lose their jobs. And you want to justify it. And it doesn't seem to have the support in society. In yesteryear, the government might have been reluctant to take some action because of the power of the union. But the unions now, maybe for a little while, they seem to prepare to work hand in hand with the government. And I have always said nothing is wrong with that because unions support political parties. But not to the detriment of your workers. That action could only be described as corrupt. It's a corrupt action. So the government is taking certain action. It would have a rippling effect in the ministries. If you are firing people in the ministry or you victimizing them for straight political reasons, two things is going to happen. Some of the people you emulate, you promote in their position may not be capable to do the job. And the second one is some people are going to be walking on ice. They're walking very careful because they know they like fall in front cockroach. Well, let me tell Deacon what happened the last time NDC came in power. The NDC promoted and select and travel with some people that lose all the documents. The people didn't know. They went to Cuba, they forgot the gift they buy. They made rudimentary mistakes and they contributed significantly to low productivity in the service. Some politicians just catch themselves and recover. But the NDC doesn't recover. They just get worse. So if you go and flaunt the laws, break regulations, ignore the bargaining unit, the people in the bargaining unit, for instance, the Public Workers Union, you ignore them, you're going to pay a price. And what saddens my heart, one of your top heavy is Richard Duncan. I take the strongest objection. Richard Duncan, you're supposed to guide Deacon. I believe Deacon would have a lot of respect for you. And based upon what we're hearing with MIT alone, you could deny it now. But the amount of speculation and rumors of corruption that is going on in the ministry of MIT, and you know from day one, I disagreed with the opposition and the union. The opposition and the union should have protested against MIT. The unions and the opposition should protest against MIT.
And they had legality on the legality or the grounds of how the ministry was set up. Secondly, senior, just to support you. Now, those workers in Carriacou, we made a lot of song and dance about it, you and myself. And one of the reasons or the rationale given by the legal advisor to government, the Attorney General, was they was dabbling in the politics by wearing a party's jersey.
The unions never defend.
The unions never defend them, but lo and behold, in the last convention by the National Democratic Congress, senior, a lot of public servants was there, clothed, glowing in yellow.
That is why I sometimes...
And that is corruption.
Sometimes I identify people within our system and call in him.
Yes.
And I dare them to take me on and challenge me. And now I call him Richard Duncan. And I dare him. Because Richard Duncan has been a senior public officer. I remember every time I talk about walk the straight and narrow, I quote Richard Duncan. Yes, caller, welcome.
Hey, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, my brother.
How you doing, my brother?
Yes, one thing, only the device in the back, a little loud.
I know you done already, man.
All right, go ahead.
Mr. Pierre, what's wrong with our way of life in Grenada? That politicians in Grenada always have to make we look as fools towards the rest of our neighboring country in the Caribbean. This is what happened, what I observed during the revolution. In 1980, a team from Grenada, second team, the national team, came up in Trinidad to play the Trinidad national team in Skinner Park in San Fernando. Oh my God, I never seen nothing so. That time the revolution was now exist. What they putting up the Grenada flag? You're talking about boo? Wake sugar back come out. As a Grenadian, I feel so bad. Well, don't talk about when they're singing, they playing the national anthem. You can't even hear nothing. It's only boo. Even the referee. Even the referee wasn't refereeing the game. Fear because they feel we align ourselves with Cuba. I say as a bricklayer, I was in a job. And near the time, this Vincent guy had to tell me the rest of the Caribbean look as Grenadians as the most stupidest of the people in the Caribbean. I had to let this brother know who we are. I let him know that we go in other countries and change things for better for these people, for citizens in other countries. It's only in Grenada when he messed up. What I'm trying to say is that why they always trying to change the way of life and make we look as fools? Why they always try to disrespect us? Why they always try to rub them things on me? Why they always try to do that to me? Mr. Pierre, this people let them go create some monsters, I just fed up with this shit. Oh, anyway.
You can't give up. You can't give up. You
Well,
can't fed up, and you always have to be hopeful. One of the issues with booing the flag and the national anthem is because of the battle that we had for independence. So although we had independence, those people who were against independence did not recognize the flag and the anthem. And every time the national anthem plays, they used to protest by booing and laughing and clapping, etc.
Well, that's the only time. I want to see games with Trinidad and Grenada, and that's the only time.
Well, yeah,
Because
you saw it there, but when we was to school, we was in a school when every school had to say the pledge and the national anthem. The schools that the leadership did not used to support the government did not used to say the pledge and the anthem. So MacDonald College did not decide to say the pledge. And as a result of that, Eric Gary said, we're not giving you all assistance. So school fees was raised to $50 a term, whereas it was 30 in some other schools. And then Gary said, we're going to remove $5 a year on school fees till it was become free.
Yeah, but while they was booing, they was calling us Cuba, and we Cuba come out.
Well, yes. So then when the revolution come, those Gary Wright and others start to boo again. And when...
I talking about them training what booing.
Well, I'm telling you that those Trinidad that was booing was Grenadian in Trinidad. You have more Grenadian in Trinidad than in Grenada. In
he had more young people there, man.
Even-
His training what was doing that.
Even in 1984, when we have activity, some of the people who are against America, they booing the flag too. So we always have this thing. Yeah. Yes, scholar. We improving now. It doesn't boo it again. So we improving. And it's all these things that we are concerned. If you have a government that is deliberately flaunting the laws, deliberately removing the regulation to avoid corruption, all Grenadians supposed to be concerned. And I was saying before...
But senior, the thing start even before this government inherited office.
Of course.
They dabble in the occult, and that's a serious thing.
And particularly, we Southwest Christians, we Christians was there.
Yeah.
And the government dabbled in the occult. I have never heard that in the Caribbean, where government, leadership, openly dabbling with the occult. This is a sad thing. The government, first people believe. The people believe. Kennedy Boudlal would say perception is reality. People believe to the extent that when the minister visited the hospital after 12 in the night, he shocked a junior nurse. And when she consulted with the senior one, they say you should send him in the pathological annex. He must go and looking for Maurice Bishop's spirit. And you had other incidents associated with the National Democratic Congress of occult practices. So this is the government we have. We must speak about it. But I spoke about the public service and MIT. And I want to challenge Richard Duncan, a man of your caliber, and I love you a lot. Just as I love Timothy Antoine. But I'm still calling for investigation into Timothy Antoine for this $22 million he spent on the governor house. I agree with Ralph Gonzalez. And in the same vein, Richard Duncan, I believe you should advise the Prime Minister on MIT. The rumors I'm hearing, I don't know if it's true, but if what I'm hearing, 1% of it is true, this thing going to blow up in your face. So I am calling on you, Richard Duncan, who is a strong advocate of walking the straight and narrow.
Well, senior, I make up you touch an issue there about Ralph Gonzalez and
Timothy Antoine. Can spend $22 million on building Governor House. Yes, scholar, welcome. Investigate him.
Good morning, Master Carl. Nice
Yes.
to see you here again. Good
Yes,
morning,
ma'am.
Mr. Pierre.
Yes, my brother.
Yeah. So, Mr. Pierre, in the budget, right? Listening to some of the deliberations, you heard that the MIT ministry get 47 million. They take out monies from agriculture, they take out from Imani. And you listen to all the deliberations of all the government senators and MPs, and you're realizing that, especially from Ms. Claudia Joseph, monies that they were supposed to spend in the last two budgets, they didn't spend it, and they're getting more money to not spend again. My question is, where are these monies going? Because the match is not adding up, right? You have the Minister of Finance went on national TV, GBN, last week, Wednesday, and said that he was not here when the Financial Committee was finalizing the budget presentation and the budget document, which Honorable Pierre, opposition leader, was saying this budget is illegal. The man literally admitted. So this government is not cohesive in the agreement of what is taking place in the budget. And to me, Warden is just being branded up. Is like they say what they want. And the NDC supporters, these things are flying over their heads. You know, I mean, in your case, for instance, again, I would say you was a farmer and you went after you heard Honorable and you say, well, if I don't get all the money,
He lied in Parliament.
You know?
After he lied in Parliament.
I mean,
and I test
and
him.
that's the reason why I keep saying.
And Lennox supposed to know I go test him. He's supposed to know that if he say this thing, on target to live in himself.
And you know what is amazing about all this thing in the Parliament with the budget? Theatrics in it and performance in it. calling people names and carrying on all this thing about context and key and all this nonsense.
That distraction
The
tactics.
theatrics is taken away.
That
It's
is
taken away from the
distraction
fundamental
tactics.
fact that the government is doing a certain nonsense.
That is a lot of
They're doing
distraction.
shit. And Grenadians, I mean, come on. And then comes to the Speaker of the House. Every living person, even the NDC supporter on the ground, will tell you that the Speaker is clearly out of his league and out of his bounds with what is taking place in the Parliament.
The speaker
How
is
do you
biased.
start a budget closing? How do you start closing the budget presentation? And the Minister of Finance was stripped. He was embarrassed globally, internationally, regionally. And I don't care what nobody said. This man was embarrassed. And I don't know how the NDC supporters taken that.
But you know,
He, as a member, a long-standing member of the Economic Trading Grenada, he should know better than that. And Deacon Mitchell cares about nobody but himself. Come on, man. But anyhow, you guys doing a good program and keep it up. Master Carl, nice seeing you.
Hey.
Igwe, have a good morning.
Before you go, Antonito, you go?
yeah.
Tell me.
Bless up.
Ade.
The Speaker of the House is Deacon Mitchell. This guy just holding papers. Listen my justification. After he rudely interrupt the Minister of Finance, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, from winding up the debate, a discussion was held somewhere in the back. I don't know if it's his office or some office. And it was agreed based on information received by me that Dennis Cornwall, my MP, should continue to wind up the debate. Lo and behold, they go back in front and the real Speaker of the House take over. So the guy getting pay, you want to run for seat, you want to run in Tessa seat next election.
But Master Carl, what is dangerous about that? Now, you have a historic moment where the second female opposition leader is given a rebuttal to a budget. The Prime Minister, who I understand, and there's video evidence to prove that he was on the compound at that day. Now, the Prime Minister
He was tired.
the head
Rain
of the
falling the galvanizing night.
Yes.
I don't go into that today. But this man was daring. No, I can understand another minister like a MP like Ron or one of them not there. Fine. But you as the Prime Minister, you as a man that's supposed to be sitting there with your Minister of Finance to hear the rebuttal. The man chose to disrespect the country and not listen to what the lady was saying and then come back with his deliberation as a parliamentary rep. He didn't come there as a Minister of Finance. And the nonsense that he was telling people about he can get $10,000 and he in this and Senate gift. I listened to Claudia Joseph in the Senate, literally saying, and she was talking on the lines of discrimination and this government, this and who has seen. Theatrics, she was basically saying that the person in charge of giving her the money and had to give the Prime Minister the money, don't give him. Mr. PM, as parliamentary rep, you have to go and sign up or request monies that you need. This is not no sharing food thing like you can just go and say, that's mine, I'll get no. I mean, who these people feel the fooling? And to the NDC, there are people that don't understand politics and don't understand the cabinet and how cabinet works and parliament work. Who said that now looking at parliament 2 years ago? Come on, get your act together. And you know, before we, something I want to touch on. You see this voters list? I've been doing a lot of thinking about this thing. And who can come from the diaspora and vote and who can come and get registered. Fine. I would tell NDP supporters, come and get registered and vote. Likewise, all the same NDC people come and vote. Come and well citizen, you can be here for a year, you can be here 6 months, when you show a light bill or where you stay, wherever, come and vote. But here's what. My question to the members of who want to run and who want to see how the list is going. I will ask people that, let's say you come to get an ID card. You is 50 years old. You are 50 years old. Explain to me, where were you? Because it's supposed to be 18 years to get your ID card. Where were you for the last 32 years? You don't have an ID card in Grenada. Where were you? What were you using as your form of identity? You understand? So that alone could raise red flag. I mean, come on. If NEC choose to do that, that's a business. But this voter party thing is getting very serious in Grenada. And I'm telling you, keep your eyes on the board. NEC, main cause right now is a winner second top.
Antonito, hold on. The Prime Minister believes that he is above the law. Why I say this? Listen, there are three branches of the state: the parliament, the executive, and the judiciary. The executive is responsible to parliament. Parliament is not responsible to the executive. So when the executive pass into law at the last budget, the 10,000 constituency allowance should be given to MP. Mr. Speaker, I don't need to open no bank account. The chief among equals were talking corruption openly in parliament. Because if you're supposed to give the details, and the more among equals saying, I don't have to do that. And you know when he say that, the other 9 beating the table, you know. For corruption, a man openly preaching corruption. That is his words, you know. He said, I don't need to open no bank account to get the money. So, what other money, what other money taking, senior, and you don't have to open bank account to take it? So that's why they say they make $1 billion in CBI and we don't hear about the money.
See,
because you don't have to open a bank account to take it.
And I think the time has come because the government is not providing information for people. And you have a lot of rumors and speculation were going on. The Prime Minister is challenging social media badge on. He's not speaking about his supporters on social media. He's not speaking about people like me and you because we're low-rank people that making noise. I don't think we're that impactful. So Jenny Simon and perhaps Sheldon Scott and them, and he's threatening them. What the Prime Minister do is tantamount to threatening people. The Prime Minister said, meet him face to face.
I know that.
You have to be crazy.
I know that he gave a proviso, you know. He said, I afraid no man.
Yes, the Prime Minister could say
Threaten.
that. The Prime Minister is threatening ordinary people.
He's trying to bully social media people who not on his side.
And he's
into
inciting
submission.
his militants. The Prime Minister is inciting his militants to practice violence.
Because when I hear you say that, somebody call me and tell me, look, I say, that can't be me. You can't try that with me.
Well, yes, you...
You can't try that with me.
Well, yes.
So it can't be me.
Well, it can be you. You obviously, but we are on social media.
I understand what you're saying,
we are not. We are maybe not as effective as they don't take us serious.
No, that we low hanging. They taking us serious, but you can't try that with me, and you know that.
Well, he could try that with me. But the point I'm making is, when a prime minister of a country, that is not the first instance when the prime minister is inciting violence. When the prime minister was interviewed and he's saying members of the opposition should dead, he's inciting violence. When the prime minister went down on his team in his meeting and calling on his people to determine, identify who is real yellow, the prime minister is inciting violence.
But senior,
when the prime minister asking, daring and challenging social media badjan, the prime minister Grenada is inciting violence. And the time is now. And I believe the best person to guide the prime minister is Richard Duncan. And I'll tell you why Richard Duncan.
If the prime minister was so confident and so popular and believe what they was doing was right, you not let too little social media people upset.
Most violent people that is guilty is not confident. The prime minister is a coward. He is not confident.
So I want
what he putting on is a brave face.
So I want them to tell.
The prime minister realized that he was cornered left, right, and center, and the public could show his compulsive trait in telling lies. So as a result of that, the Prime Minister is trying to intimidate those on social media and inciting violence among his militants.
Because when
I don't take that as a joke.
when I hear the Prime Minister in his own volition say he never say about stroke of the pen, I say something wrong with this guy. And when he say that in Parliament, them men beat the table, you know, and all of them who sit down, they know he say that. You know. So, Mr. Prime Minister, when I come here, it's you me come for.
You see, I take the words of leaders very seriously. Maurice Bishop was on the pulpit calling Eugenia yard fowl and Tom Adams, Eugenia mother hen and Tom Adams yard fowl. When Grenadians went to Barbados, we got a hard deal on the airport. The ordinary Bajan on the airport was very hostile to Grenadians. Maurice Bishop tell Ronald Reagan, he called Ronald Reagan a cowboy. And he say, AK speaking Spanish. And if you touch Nicaragua and you touch Cuba, you touch Grenada. Ronald Reagan went in the White House and he says the American national security is at stake, not nutmeg. Now, when the Prime Minister of Grenada is making those statements, what he's doing, he's inciting violence. And I believe Richard Duncan, you perhaps more than any other Grenadian, have the clout to counsel the Prime Minister.
The same Prime Minister is the one I was in the meeting senior. And he said, take Susu in your...
Yeah, that's when he was encouraging Grenadians to use the worst obscenity
He said,
in Grenada.
take Susu in a word that rhyme with front.
That is the worst obscenity. That is the most impactful.
He do better than Chuck does, because when Chuck does vex, he doesn't rhyme. But he rhyme. He said, take Susu in the word that rhyme with front. The true antecedents of the Prime Minister.
I see, sometimes I say in a democratic country, people deserve the government that they have. And we have a number of people that on one occasion, they're making mountain out of molehill, and on the other occasion, they cannot see the mountain. So I like to identify them. So today, that's why I call Richard Duncan. Richard Duncan is no ordinary public officer. He held the highest level. And he was in a financial institution. And he is quite capable as Antoine to run the ECCB. But the NNP selected Richard Duncan on one occasion in charge of FRAC. And he was in charge of FRAC.
Yeah.
When NNP put Richard Duncan in charge of FRAC, some NNP say Kit Mitchell crazy. How you could put a known enemy of yours in to monitor you and to report on you? And Kit Mitchell said that is the best person to put. Our friends wouldn't tell us when we're going wrong. We want to get the economy of this country right. Now Richard Duncan is deeply involved in NDC. So I expect a higher quality of performance. So I'm calling on Richard Duncan. Go and see what's going on in MIT. The level of corruption that is going on in MIT going to embarrass even the king in England. Think about Richard. You ought to know. If I know, you must know. So Richard Duncan. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, my brother.
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead. Hearing you loud and clear.
Yes, Mr. Pierre. I just want to share my 2 cents on the parliament procedures which happened a few weeks ago.
Go right ahead.
An ordinary citizen like me, somebody who always listened to the parliament from since going to school, I saw Mr. Cornwall, he presented the budget. And then when everybody, I see Mr. Cornwall going, the Speaker of the House called Mr. Cornwall to close on the budget. An ordinary person like me sit down there saying, well, the Prime Minister and Dr. Mitchell haven't spoken on the budget as yet. Why is Mr. Cornwall going to speak? Not realizing it was all a plot set up by the Prime Minister and his colleagues. It was simply a plot. Because Mr. Keto could have simply go and call and say, hey, listen, the Prime Minister hasn't spoken yet. I don't think Mr. Cornwall should go ahead. That is just my take on that. It was simple and basic to see. So Mr. Keto, calling to Master Carl, Mr. Keto, he jackassed the thing. And they unspend money. That is just my theory. It's all a big plot behind this thing. You have to look at these people. Master Carl always say, look at these people. Follow the money. These people is all about glitter, glamour, entertainment, showmanship. They don't have no substance. They pulling all kind of trick to fool people. So if you're not watching carefully, you will get caught up in their games. But they ain't fooling me. They can't fool me, right? This thing is all a plot. This is a campaign plot. Everything is just boiling down to the campaign. All this money talk is just about the campaign. And like you say, Mr. Pierre, the Prime Minister is a fake. He is a big fake. You have to watch him carefully. I just want to tell all Grenadians, listen to what they are saying. Open your eyes and watch. Do let them muzzle your mouth. Speak out. And to my NNP supporters and family, hold strong. We on the way. Ms. Pierre could handle the job. There's no question about it. They don't have vision. When we speak, they follow. You watch what's going on. Ms. Pierre speak and you see they reacting. They are reactive set of people. They don't focus and have logic in what they're doing. They just helter-skelter anywhere.
Yes.
Their priorities are not straight. It's easy to see.
Yes, caller.
And then you have all these mouth champions on radio who just tooting for them and blowing horn and buffing up their supporters and getting on. But
Yes,
there is no
yes.
substance behind it.
Caller, listen this. First of all, the leader of His Majesty's opposition had a brutal takedown of the budget. They recognized
Fully agree.
that they could not grapple with the takedown. So the next thing was to plan a distraction. So all what happened,
Of course.
don't feel sorry for Dennis Cornwall. All that was an orchestrated plan to distract the Grenadian public from the takedown of the budget by the leader of the opposition. Secondly, remember our budget is estimate. They say the estimates of revenue.
Estimates.
They don't have that money, they
What
say.
the
They didn't make that
project
money. The economy don't work in. Because in 3 years, $1 billion debt. You can't tell me you are surplus. So don't let this thing and them fool people. They don't have this money. They estimated. Ask them what is the recurrent or how much money they have to pay out every month or fortnight. And ask them how much money they're making. And when you don't making enough money to pay, you have a budget deficit, which is $337 million. How could you have a deficit of the budget of $337 million and you tell me you have money you don't spend? Be wise. Be wise.
Yeah, we listening.
Yes, caller,
Then-
thank you.
I'm listening carefully.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, caller.
Then the procurement senior. And that point must be made. Their rationale for increasing the procurement by 600% is things go up. How come they don't do nothing for the How you just call the people of them? The lower income strata. How come no measures? The last time they take out VAT on condom and thing. How come you don't have no measures this time?
They take it on panty liner.
They take it out on that set?
They say they take it on panty liner. It's a kind of sexy, strange, mysterious, clandestine.
Senior, you serious? I don't want you to
No.
Panty liner.
They're not true, Mr. Pierre. They didn't say they want panty liner, they say panty liner.
So all this old talk. But senior,
Condom and panty liner.
another corrupt practice that is going on is traveling. Now, if you remember, a lot of questions was asked as to the travel budget, and you realize the Minister of Finance always hiding from answering.
We can hide from public officers.
So he left us to speculate. Now we find out the travel budget was over $2 million. Senior.
And that's why I'm calling on Richard Duncan again.
But listen this.
They want to desecrate the bureaucracy.
But listen
And the
this.
bureaucracy is for check and balance.
But listen what a responsible government does. Because Barbados, 7 years travel cost $1.2 million. 3 years down here money cost more than $3 million. But the
8 million, is it?
how much?
Somebody say 8 million.
But the empirical evidence, senior, $147 million in grant, gift monies, was Barbados get through this 1.2 million travel. So a responsible government in the last 7 years spent 1.2 million on travel, and they bring $147 million benefit to Grenada. How much this fellas done bring? They the corruption.
It could well be liability. At least the Prime Minister got 1,000 kids. And to tell you how the Prime Minister
And somebody and they fought.
corrupted, he got 1,000 kids, he bring it for St. David's. Well, if you travel on government official business,
Why St. David?
and you get, why didn't you give the 1,000
And
kids to the
split it.
cricket organization? Or maybe is it who does organize the school cricket? Is it the
Or the
teachers?
ministry or somebody?
Well, give it to the Ministry for School Cricket. You give it to your constituency. This is the height of corruption. My concern is when you have this level of institutionalized corruption, it has a rippling effect within the public service and the workforce. Within the private sector, some workers will lose their job and go in jail. Within the public service, you have low productivity. You have low productivity. When different ministries have their own checkbook signing, because MIT ministry have their own checkbook, you know.
By
Richard Duncan, it makes no sense that these individuals forming up as if them is talking cock
by
in our society.
senior, I was
And while they're doing that, these things happen in the department.
senior. I was in town earlier on this week, and whilst walking on Melville Street, when I was close to one of the banks, I see some school children suing. So I kind of step in a little bit. They say, you see, that man going and change the check, and that woman collecting the money, and then they go give him something. Yeah, when they make me or they move by, they say they're afraid I will see that on the radio.
Well, I think what is going on in MIT, MIT have their own checkbook. You know? Not the Ministry of Finance that giving out check. You know? The check have to come from the Ministry of Finance.
And then I remember my grandmother tell me,
MIT have their own check.
my grandmother tell me when a man drunk or he vex or school children tell you anything, believe it. Drunk, vex, and school children get.
The government took about $15 million, is 15, for building houses and gave it to MIT. You know?
Wow.
And you have the Ministry of Housing. You know? And the Minister of Housing laughing, ha, ha, ha. You know?
Senior, I need to touch on another topic. I know
Another corrupt.
that you have some interest in the animals.
Tell me about the animals.
No, they say some of the animals died.
Well, if you bring if you bring 400 and something animals, you expect that.
Well, they say what is
Maybe
interesting
about
to note,
10% could die.
they say the kind of feed the animal need, they have to import the hay.
Well, you expect about 10% of the animals to die. In a worst case scenario, if it's over 10%, you may.
But the
fact-
feed, why?
Well, the government did not prepare. That's why I've been asking what genetic farm they got the animals from.
I know you keep asking this.
Yeah, because you see, what could happen, they could tell somebody to get animals for them, and they go up in the rural part in Iowa or in other countries, and they buy some animal, they put in a thing and bring it on come. So the animals are not of high genetic quality. But if they tell us what genetic farms, then we could research those farms. Because that means it's reputable genetic farms. You have a lot of bubble in America. A lot of bubble. You've been on some farms and the quality of the animals, inbreeding, etc. Because the animal is not a genetic farm. And the price they quote for the animals are very expensive. So it means that it's supposed to come from a reputable genetic farm. And if it comes from a reputable genetic farm, it is in that farm interest
to keep
give
the
you
good name.
the good name. But if the government is not disclosing publicly what genetic farm these animals come, so we could take our cell phone and go on those farms and research, then it's bubble.
Or Google information on those
Then that is bubble.
corruption.
And this government is very corrupt. And some of the acts of corruption that is going on, you could just turn back the country. Remember, Massacre, the Fiscal Responsibility Legislation Act.
Yeah.
These things are placed for this. When the International Monetary Fund comes in Grenada, and if they give you a pass mark, then other lending agencies, you have access to them. So a lot of these financial institutions use the International Monetary Fund as the organization to determine whether you are creditable, whether you credit worthy, whether they could take a chance and invest in you. And that is why the IMF is so critical in the countries that deal with the IMF. Some African countries want to get rid of the IMF. So, but they're going to China. And when China lend you money, they describe China borrowing system and the financial institution as a debt trap. When China lend you money, they come for 1,000 years. You better believe you tie up like crab.
Comment for Master Carl.
Go right ahead.
I want to hear Master Carl's thoughts on the PM Deacon's statement regarding the Grenleg bucket trucks being rented out late in the afternoon with solar panels for picking fruits.
The only thing I could say was, I go borrow a phrase from a friend of mine. That's the most ram good statement I ever heard. But that you tell you he doesn't know. When somebody speaks on a topic, based on what they say, you know they don't know about it.
I think he's embarrassing extension officers and agriculture export all over the Caribbean. After he finished speaking about that, he went and speak about the nets for the sea moss. Seaweed. And then he went on and speak about planting pepper. Pepper is more easy to destroy than even banana in hurricane season. But if you're using pepper as an alternative crop to cocoa, it's like saying plant more maize. That is when they will tell you you're stupid like paint. And the Prime Minister is so arrogant that he wouldn't get the expert advice on that.
Another issue I need to touch before we conclude, Senior. And a lot of song and dance has been made about pay and grade. The first question I would ask, based on the operations of government, is it legal for what the government is suggesting to give to the police officer? One. And secondly, when you have to have a regrade, Senior, it has to be a public service exercise. You equate responsibility of job as to how much you go reward the person. So you say that all the police. So if the nurses come tomorrow and say we don't get enough, would you just give them something? Now, I don't knock it, but the Prime Minister knew from since 1995 a particular situation existed. But his remedy is to just upgrade police officers' skills and say pay and grade. You don't pay no pay and grade.
You give them some extra money.
Just as how he tried to fool the teachers by giving them the money when he come. Because you see, the whole thing, and the opposition forces have to understand the electioneering with this budget, you know, seeing it. He decided going to give the police some money because the police is over 1,000 and if you check by household, so let me say 4,000. It might affect 4,000 people. So they say, let me box in these 4,000 people by giving them a little money. But we go here. We go here, you know. And we will come back and discuss it here. I just want to give them time so the budget could gain and then come back, you know. Because one set of people go get so much and the next set of people wouldn't get much.
It wasn't professionally done. It wasn't done with any
so we go discuss it.
And you wouldn't find the opposition really going and interfere with that field. It might be sensitive. And that is why there are some issues I don't pet subject matter. Where the corruption level is in Grenada, are calling on Richard Duncan. Richard Duncan, you have a reputation to secure. Just as how I like Antoine and have great respect for him, so I like and have great respect for you. You cannot permit that to continue going under your watch. What is going on in MIT and the systematic level of corruption and the fact that the government opened the door to corruption is unacceptable. Richard Duncan, you is the doorman. Speak about it or advise Deacon that he's opening the door wide for corruption. It's going to have a rippling effect throughout the country. And it will have to take years.
When Gregory Bowen, Minister of Finance as he then was,
and your time run out.
Presented, no, I must make that statement here because people have to understand.
Go ahead.
Presented the budget and they introduced the food basket because they realized the cost of living and they brought in the 150 and others. Deacon Mitchell, leader of the NDC then, said that was tokenism. Remember that one? So giving the police that money now, is it a straight
That's
case?
corruption.
Bribery?
That is bribery. Deacon is corrupt. And that's why I go straight to the source, you know. The Prime Minister of Grenada is corrupt. And I believe the only person I could call now, I can't call Willie again, he ain't bothering me. And I can't call my camaraderie. And this one too big for Dennis Cornwall. You don't have the clout. Richard Duncan, you have the clout. Speak to Deacon. Speak about the bank and MIT. That is, he has opened the door to corruption. You must not be the doorman in front of the door. And we want to thank those who participate in the program today. And we encourage you always to share and like our program. Thank you very much.
Them try to kill we and break way. Them not realize it's the same fight that build way. I don't need friends.